What is going on, YouTube family? It's Andrea here at VW Family Farm. It's a little windy out here today, but I am getting out here anyway. I want to share something with y'all. A lot of times we put stuff on here like when problems go wrong in our cattle herd, not because we necessarily want to, because that always opens us up to people's judgments and criticisms, but we do it because we have a lot of good days here on this farm where there's no major things happening, no major problems. The cows are just cruising along, everything's going good with them and with all the other animals. But then you have those days, bad things happen, things come up, animals get sick, whatever, crazy things sometimes, like what I'm about to tell you about. And we share those with you guys anyway, in an effort to be real and transparent, and so maybe you can learn from it. So I don't want to get off the impression that most days are bad around here, because they're so not. But I do want you guys to be able to learn from some things as we're learning. That way, if you own a cow in the future, you'll know a little bit more than we did going into all this. And maybe if you never own a cow, you never even live in the country or anything like that, maybe it will open your eyes a little bit to what all goes into raising food. Okay, so I'm out here in our barn. We got this guy out here. And the cows can actually get up to this barn. This is an old barn, it's in our yard, and they can actually come all the way up to it, and they can actually come into it. And it's decent sized stall. The reason we did that is not for the cows, that was actually for, we had pigs out there at one time. But we let the cows come in here. Most of them don't want to, and hence the mud hole. That's from pigs being in there, and they made a permanent mud hole that we can't ever get dried up because the rain goes down there. Anyway, so this calf came in here and decided he liked the looks of the barn, and you can see this is 4 big slats high. It's pretty high. Don't know what he was thinking, but he went over this and knocked the top board off and was out in our hay barn. You can see our barn down there. We've got pheasants down there. This is where we store equipment and stuff. So, and there's never cows in here. You can see there's no evidence of animals. They're never have access to in this big hay barn. So that is where the problem begins. So like most people, I'm not even gonna say on a farm or in the country, just most people in general, even in town, we leave some things sitting around. That's just life. There are those people who are super tidy and they never have things sitting around and they have everything cleaned up and picked up all the time, and we are just not those people. We try to keep things clean and decent around here, but we also have a lot of things going on and a lot of equipment that we're maintaining. We've showed you that in past videos about keeping old equipment for parts for our better equipment, things like that. So we have a lot of things sitting around. And this calf right here taught us a very valuable lesson this morning. And so let me show you what it is. So you can see that is one of our tractors there. That's the little one Lane and I use. And then we also have a big one that's not in the barn right now. But every spring we change the oil in those. And in fact, this is the bucket that Ben drained all the used motor oil out of the tractor engines into, because then he showed you a couple videos ago what he does with that. So then Ben will take that oil into the shop usually and use it, like he had this sitting out here in the barn because he was spritzing it on parts on the hay baler to grease them. We just use it for a whole host of things. He showed you, like I said a couple of videos ago, using it on an old rusty chain that came off a burnt baler, and then that allowed us to save a lot of money not having to buy a new chain because that oil helped loosen that chain up and make it reusable. So here is the problem. Calves and cows alike, but a lot of times calves, because they're curious and they just haven't learned yet what to eat and what to leave alone, they will drink things like that bucket of motor oil. I know it's crazy, but they actually like the taste of things like motor oil, hydraulic oil, gas, diesel, petroleum-based products like that. They will lick the grease. You have to put grease on equipment to keep things running smoothly. They will lick that grease off your equipment if you leave it in the field and they're able to get to it. And that, sadly, is exactly what this calf has done. He went to that bucket when he got out. We did not realize he was out immediately because he was just milling around here in the barn. And the kids came out here to feed, and his head was down in that bucket drinking. Don't have any idea how much he drank. You can see that line way up there, and that's a 5-gallon bucket, and there's maybe a gallon left in it. There probably was 4 gallons. Ben had taken some out to grease things on the baler, which is why this bucket is even out here. But he did drink some, that is for sure. So you can see he is in here in confinement. That is because we have been in contact with the vet, and that's what he said to do. This was the most readily available little stall. You can see the side of the barn has suffered some storm damage in the past, needs some work, but this is the only place we could get him and get him quick. And the vet has told us to only feed him hay, and lots of it. So this is a big pile of fresh, good quality hay. And that is all he has access to. You can see he's standing over in some weeds, but he probably won't eat that, and it's about trampled down now anyway. That will encourage him to eat this because that's all he's going to get for a few days. So the vet actually said he really could pull through this. He could be fine. Just get him lots of hay to get that moved on out. But there's a chance he won't be fine, and I'm just being upfront and frank and honest with you about that. There's a chance that we have learned a very hard lesson here because anytime they get into those things I mentioned that they like, you are risking lead poisoning because when you're dealing with used oil and things like that, leaded gasoline, anything like that, and then they drink it, you're risking potential lead poisoning. And just to be honest with you guys, because I want to tell you as much as I can about learning about this, you can get lead poisoning from a number of places on a farm. So we really all need to take a hard look at the spaces our animals have access to. Our little guy did not have access to this barn, but he got out and got to it. But there are some sources where your animals might be being housed right now where you could possibly get lead poisoning. So there are several sources you need to be aware of that could cause lead poisoning on your farm. And a few of those I just wanted to share with you guys are, like we've encountered, motor oil that you've left sitting around. That is very common. A lot of people have buckets of motor oil and things, especially if you change your own oil in your vehicles or even in your farm machinery or anything like that. Hydraulic fluid. Like I mentioned a while ago, if they have access to your equipment, your tractor, your bush hog, things like that, that you're using a grease gun to grease the parts on, if they can get to that and lick on that, they will. If they have access to like lead tire weights, that's a source that can be lead poisoning for them. Old linoleum, things like that. Like a pipe fitting compound, like they call it pipe dope. If they have access to that, they will eat that as well. Also, if your animals are in an area that you're also target practicing or doing any kind of shooting and they have access to grazing where you may have bullets that have landed on the ground, they could potentially eat those as well. And finally, if you have old buildings on your property, I was reading a report of a man that started losing calves, and what it came back to after he lost several was an old building on his property that had not been properly disposed of. They had just burned it down, and it was painted in lead paint, which a lot of old barn buildings and things like that are. And that wasn't even there anymore, but the lead had gotten in his soil, and it was actually in the dust and going into the respiratory system of the animals that were grazing that pasture because it had gotten dry, and so the dust was stirring up and it was poisoning his cows. So just what I'm saying is, lead is no joke, and we need to look around our farms for sources of it and properly dispose of them. And if you're like us and you had no idea that leaving a bucket of oil that an animal like a cow would choose to readily drink it, that just blew me away. Just beware of it. Now you know. We will not be leaving this sitting around anymore. In fact, I'm about to go put it up inside the shop where I can shut and lock the door. That doesn't guarantee anything if something got in the shop, but at least it won't be sitting out here where if the cows get out, they can get to it right away. So I hope this video helps someone. This guy so far is doing okay. He's up, his ears are perky. Have no idea how long this is gonna take to show if he's gonna make it through it or not. Like I said, we're in contact with the vet and we're doing everything they're telling us to do. And so it's just a waiting game. So I will keep you posted. I have hopes that he's gonna make it, but I really have no guarantee of that. But I'm really hoping. So that is it, guys. This is just an effort by us to be totally real and transparent and show you the good, bad, and ugly and the hard lessons learned. And this is just one of those. I had no idea that they would willingly choose to suck down that much of something that could be harmful. But learn from us. Let's get our farms cleaned up so they're safe places for our animals. And we'll see you guys later. God bless.